I'm Darian Gray of Who Dat Dish, and you know what comes after a 2-game winning streak? A 3-game winning streak.
This is former Saints wide receiver Lance Moore, and I've always been this entire offseason and into the season the guy who said we need to lose more, but I'm with Darian. Let's bring on that 3-game win streak.
John Hendricks, New Orleans football, and we're 1 week till Christmas. I don't care about anything else.
It's the Saints Squad. Everything New Orleans Saints, every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from down in the Big Easy, the way only Locked On Podcast Network can. Get ready and squad up. It's the Saints Squad Show, starting now.
What's going on, Who Dat Nation? Welcome back to the Saints Squad Show, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and also the #1 sports podcast network in the country. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day every Sunday and Wednesday. And when we don't get to you on Wednesday, coming back to us again on Thursdays. We have a unique group of experts here ready to bring you a fun and informative show on everything New Orleans Saints. Today, we're going to be diving into game predictions against the New York Jets, as well as bold predictions. What college football playoff players do you need to watch this week? Devaughn, Vele, Devin, Neal, out with an injury. What's the impact? But always, we start off with Tyler Shuck. Everybody wants to talk about the quarterback. What else is there for him to prove? Fellas, I've seen a lot from Shuck. There's been a lot to like. Of course, he's a rookie. He's going to make his mistakes. But I feel like if there's anything that Tyler Shuck needs to prove, it's consistency. Keep doing what you're doing. I know that's like a profane phrase in the Saints world to say keep doing what you're doing, DA. But keep doing what you're doing, Tyler Shuck. And I feel like if you're able to do that, it will be a successful close to the season. And I'll start off with Lance. What do you think he needs to prove, if anything, going into this?
I was literally taking notes about 10 minutes before the show, thinking of, a few things that I'd like to hit on with Tyler Shuck. And the first word I wrote was consistency. Because in the National Football League, it's what have you done for me lately? Like last week was great. The week before was great. But if he has a bad outing this week, then the questions start to come out. Well, is he a two-hit wonder? Have we seen the best of him? Is he going to be hot and cold? Is that going to be the type of player he is? Being able to be consistently good is going to be what gets and keeps him the job. If he's going to be up and down, then there's always going to be questions kind of surrounding him because he's not to the status of an established starting quarterback that's had success over a long period of time. As long as he's a young, obviously this is his rookie year, but he's a young quarterback. If there is inconsistencies, then there will still be questions. Is he the future? Is he going to be the guy long term? Are we going to be looking at a quarterback next year in the draft or even years beyond that? But if he continues to do the things that he's doing, which are commanding the huddle, running the show, making plays both with his arms and his legs, comebacks. I mean, like he's gotten his team into position to win games. Like that's what we want from a franchise quarterback. We've seen that. But again, it's going to take seeing that consistently to crown him the franchise quarterback, the guy of the future here. But he's doing a good job thus far. I think it's his in the moment. But again, he's got to continue to play well for them to have the confidence. And then obviously all of Who Dat Nation to have the confidence in him being the guy moving forward.
Yeah, he's one leg up already, it feels like. It feels like everybody's ready to believe. He's convinced the fan base. I feel like the fan base was a little slow. I don't think that a lot of people were on the Shuck train at the beginning. It was really like Louis Riddick and then just Louis Riddick. But now it's Louis Riddick and nearly 3/4 of the Saints fan base. It feels like he just needs to convert that last fourth over these last 3 games. What do you think, John?
Yeah, look, I think Lance hit it with the consistency. I think he showed me a lot. I think he's proved a lot. I don't really have that many questions going into next season. But if I have to criticize or if I have to be critical of it, which I think so, is where I'd like to see a better start. And I think for some of that goes hand in hand with Kellen Moore. Just not all of that falls on Tyler Shuck, but, playing from behind, coming from behind, that's great. But I want to see the complete game from Tyler Shuck. And the Saints and the offense and everything, saying, let's start hitting the ground running and let's make sure we're on that thing, cruise control the rest of the way. Like, you just don't let up off the gas, put it on cruise control, just a consistent, I mean, it falls in line with what Lance said, consistency, but I just want to see that for a full 60 minutes. I want to see them hit another level. Can they actually get above a point threshold that they have not been able to all year? And look, here's the thing is they play the Jets. We know that's not a very good football team. The Saints aren't that great of a football team, right? I mean, there's optimism right now, and then they've got the Titans. So I think sometimes it's a double-edged sword because people are going to be like, it's just the Jets. You know what I mean? Those people, that fourth that's left, it's just the Titans, but at the same time, I still feel like with what Tyler Shuck has put out there, whether it's his mobility, whether it's some of the throws, I think the other part is just being able to take chances, because that miss took up to Olave. I know he went right back to him, and used him a lot in that last quarter, but being able to take some of those chances coupled with being able to get off to a better start, that's kind of what I want to see from Tyler Shuck in this offense.
Yeah, I think part of the slow starts is Kellen maybe kind of being a little bit hesitant to kind of take the training wheels off. But if the last couple of weeks have taught us anything, it's that, like, now's the time. Like, especially against the next two opponents. I mean, really the next three opponents. I mean, like, it's not like we're playing against, the vaunted Kansas City Chief defense of their Super Bowl runs, right? Like, these are not those defenses and teams that really aren't that good. So it's like you have an opportunity now to go out there and allow him to not just kind of work himself into the game. You could take the handcuffs off of him and start out throwing the ball early. I would love to see them throw the ball consistently on first and second down. Like, I think we did that a lot more earlier in the season, especially when Spencer Rattler was the quarterback. Run on first, run on second. Now it's third and long. We have to throw the ball. Like, I think he's starting to change that a little bit, but I'd love to see it even more. The aggressiveness, downfield more. I think those things would help this offense, and it would help Tyler Shuck, I think, grow and learn even faster.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the things you said, I think is really interesting, John, is the idea of who you're facing. Of course, this does set it up to have a strong closing. But I think one thing that's good for Tyler Shuck's season and how we're going to look at his rookie year is that he did beat Carolina and Tampa Bay, and then beat Carolina twice. And the reason I think that's going to be such a positive evaluation for his season is you can't just say he ran through certain people. You can't just say, oh, well, Tyler Shuck beat the easy guys. He didn't. He also beat some of the difficult opponents. It's kind of like in college football where people say you have a cupcake schedule. You're not playing anybody. All right. Indiana might not have played many people, but when they got to Oregon, look what they did. When they get to Ohio State, look what they did. Is Tampa Bay and Carolina the equivalent of an Ohio State and Oregon? No. But for Tyler Shuck, it was the next best thing you could have outside of your first start being against the Rams. The point is, you want to look really good against the teams you're supposed to look really good against, and you want to look like he looked against Tampa Bay and Carolina, against teams that you probably didn't think he would look that way. So I do agree. It's not much for you to see from Tyler Shuck. So I'll kind of spin this a little bit. We laid out, we want to see consistency from Tyler Shuck. Who on this Saints roster do you think has the most to prove over the last 3 games? And I'll start off with John.
Man, most to prove. I'm thinking about it. Are you talking about offense with Shuck?
Either way. Offense, defense on this team, who has the most to prove?
See, I feel like the defense is really starting to catch their stride a lot more here. If I have to go, I'd say it's Carl Granderson defensively, just because he's just really been MIA. You know what I'm saying? He had the hot start to this season, and now he's kind of just fizzled out. And I mean, there's just times now where it's like Cam looks a little bit better than what Carl is, and that's not really how it's supposed to be. Now, I think Chase Young, said it on this show few weeks ago that he's going to push and he was going to get to that sack total that I was thinking he could. But, I just think with Carl Granderson, it's very bizarre that he's just fallen off a cliff, if you will. And I think he just needs to be one to show a little bit more because, later on, we're probably going to talk about, obviously not. I think we're going to talk about players to watch in this college football playoffs. Saints, they figure out this quarterback position. It's going to be really interesting in their options that they're going to be able to take wherever they draft. And that could be an edge rusher. That could be a star tight end. That could be a wide receiver. There could be a lot of different ways that they can go. But figuring out the quarterback is a huge thing. But for me, Carl Granderson's a guy that, man, you just got to bring it. You got to show something over these last few games to make the Saints team say, we definitely want to have you stick around and be a part of Brandon Staley's defense moving forward.
Yeah, I think with Granderson, I'll say this real quick, Lance. The best you probably get from Granderson in 2026, hopefully, I think you need to address the position. So hopefully the best you get is him being in that rotational role. I think that's the best that you're hoping for. I think the upside, the ceiling of what you hoped he would be, I no longer have any optimism that he reaches that. So if he can show something to show he deserves to be on a rotational role, I think that would be a great finish for him. Lance, you were about to say something about Granderson.
Well, no, I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head. Like it's not a, he has so much to prove to keep his job. I think he has so much to prove to be a part of this roster. Like that's exactly because if he doesn't pick it up these last couple of weeks, I would imagine they'd probably ask Cam to come back at a discount, at a not so high rate before they'd want to pay Carl Granderson, more money. So, yeah, I mean, you kind of went exactly where I was going to go with it. But since I have a little bit of time here, I'll go offense because John went defense. And I've got two guys, but for two separate reasons. Okay. The first one is probably the most obvious. It's Chris Olave, right? Another receiver down. He's got the opportunity now, 3 weeks left. He's got close to 900 yards. He's going to have another 1,000-yard season, his first in a couple of years, which is a significant number for a receiver that could potentially be trying to get a contract extension. He continues to play like he's played. I mean, especially the second half of last week, that is going to get blown out of the water. He might have 1,300 yards. And then the second guy is Cesar Ruiz. Like, he's another guy like Carl Granderson that's not necessarily, I think, at this point, playing for his starting spot, but playing for a spot on this roster overall, just because it's his career. It's been up and down, but this season just has not been good. And, the more closely that you watch the film offensively, a lot of the breakdowns have happened because of 51. When he's in one-on-one matchups, he's consistently getting beaten in both the pass and the run game. That's not a recipe for success, especially for a former first rounder that got paid. It's got to look a lot better than it's looked for him. And, not to say that linemen are replaceable because there's only so many of those guys. But if you don't play well, then you will be replaced. Doesn't matter what round you came in. It doesn't matter what type of contract you signed recently. They'll make it work one way or another to get you out of here. And for him, somebody that was drafted as highly as he was drafted, you would hope that he would have been better, but it just has not been the case. So I think there's a lot on the line for him these last 3 weeks.
I agree. I think that he's one of several Saints that are like, you got to figure out if you're sticking around. I think he's in that bucket. I think you hit it, obviously. And not Olave, but I think Taysom Hill's another one. I think Carl Granderson's another one. I mean, you got to figure out, because if you can figure out this quarterback position, then how do you build around Tyler Shuck? Where do you need to improve? What needs to be done to maybe go to year two of Brandon Staley's defense? Because, again, I feel like the night and day difference between Staley's defense from the beginning of the year to now, I feel like they played way more consistent, way better, which is encouraging to me. But I think there's some pieces that maybe obviously need to be upgraded. Interior still needs a little bit of attention. The edge position needs attention. I feel good about linebacker. Corner, depends on what they do with Alante. That's obviously a big question mark. Safety, back end, I feel better about. But, on offense, you just can't have that dead weight. And, Shuck's been under duress a lot. Like, we give him credit for what he's doing, but he shouldn't have to scramble out of the pocket every single play and be under duress. Yeah. That's a sign of your offensive line. So we know they got the good two staples on the end with Banks and Fuanga, but that interior, it has just been a challenge and a problem for years, and they have tried so many different things. So they got to do a lot of things differently there.
Yeah, I think the Saints have done a poor job investing in that interior, in my opinion. I like McCoy. He hasn't been healthy enough. Ruiz has been a frustrating player for years, and they just tried to kick in Penning, and now they went to Radens. It's not working the way I mean, they're doing it. They're putting players there, but they're not working, in my opinion. I think it's time to reinvest. We've drafted 3 offensive tackles over the last set of years. It's time to
free agency
towards some offensive linemen on the interior. As for Olave, I'm going to say this before we pivot, is I also think these 3 weeks are big for Olave, because if I'm his agent and I finally made it through a season completely healthy, I'm trying to get long-term security this offseason, period. Yeah. Right. And I'm probably playing hardball to get to it. So I've had this mindset as me now, Darian again, the idea that Chris Olave is either going to get a new contract, or we're going to see how long he's going to push into training camp, if he even stays in New Orleans, depending on how far apart they are on the numbers. So I don't know if he'll take it that far. Go ahead,
Darian, if I'm his agent, if he finishes this year healthy, over 1,000 yards, probably a couple more touchdowns, I'm not reporting to anything until a new deal is gotten. Or if you don't want to pay me, find a trade. Let me explore the market. Somebody will pay me. That's the advice. Somebody will pay my client. That's the advice that I would give him, because you're not gonna get in this position again potentially a year from now. You'll be a year older. Who knows if you'll make it through healthy? Who knows if you'll have the same type of success next year if they add pieces to the offense? So like the time is literally right now.
100%.
And guess who his agent is? It's Drew Rosenhaus, so he's going to get the money.
So
he'll get somewhere. Somewhere we'll get him.
You got 3 weeks to show whatever number that your agent's going to come with in this offseason is what you should have. And I think that these 3 weeks will lay out how we'll talk about him this whole offseason. It'll lay out how Kellen Moore and the front office think about him this offseason. And it will lay out the foundation for what the long-term contract will be. And that's going to be an investment. Are the Saints going to make it, or will they trade him to someone else who will have to make it as well? That's what these 3 weeks kind of work towards when I'm thinking about Chris Olave. Yes, it's great. But one thing he's going to have in his favor is he may not have Devaughn Vele. He won't have Devin Neal either, but he won't have Devaughn Vele out there. So he's going to be getting a lot of targets. Let's talk about the impact of both the rookie Devin Neal and Devaughn Vele's absence as we continue with the Saints squad show. You remember when you put all your money down on Tyler Shuck winning Rookie of the Year? I remember when I did it, because Rockin' Money tells me all the time, hey, you had an unusual transaction. That's what I appreciate. Yes, I did have an unusual transaction, and I'm about to have another one when I hit. So if you ever feel like your money just disappears each month, or maybe you have some subscriptions that you're not used to paying for or not remembering that you're paying for, you haven't looked at that service in months, maybe even a year, but you're still paying for it. Rocket Money helps you stay organized through all of that. It doesn't have to be impromptu investments in Tyler Shuck's future as a rookie quarterback. It could be anything. It could be a streaming service or something else crazy, right? We all put a little money. I know Lance knows about it. Come on now. Rocket Money. Come on, seeing your spending on one dashboard makes it easy as well. Now, if you have a partner, they may ask you, where did all that money go? You just have to say, baby, just wait a little bit. It's on the way soon. But take care of your finances and cancel your unwanted subscriptions with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/locked on today. That's rocketmoney.com/locked on. As we continue rolling with the Saints squad show, we love Rocket Money and we love Tyler Shuck. But one thing we don't love is injuries. Those have not been kind to the Saints, specifically in the running back room. I mean, come on now. Repeatedly. At least they traded away their wide receivers, but you're not going to see Devaughn Vele this week. I don't think you should probably see him the rest of the year. I think there's a good chance he maybe misses the rest of the season. Devin Neal for sure is gone for the rest of the season, but let's condense it to just this Jets game. Starting off with Lance, what are you expecting in the absence of Devin Neal and Devaughn Vele?
Well, I'm expecting a little bit more on Tyler Shuck's shoulders. Like you continue to remove weapons from the equation, it's not going to get any easier. And it doesn't matter who the opponent is. We could talk about how bad the Jets, Titans, and Falcons are. That is not going to matter. Like not being able to, I mean, in my opinion, it's kind of similar to Spencer Rattler last season, how most of the starters, the starting skill players, at least at the wide receiver position, were out. And he had to go out there and play with guys that were backups and sometimes backups to the backups. So, yes, Chris Olave could be seeing more of the targets, but he could also be seeing a lot more of the coverage. So I think it's going to be, a little bit more on the plate of Kevin Austin Jr., the tight end room overall. We could potentially see Taysom Hill catch a few passes. We haven't seen much of that this year. But I do think it just the first thing that stands out is, okay, this is going to be more on Tyler Shuck's plate as far as being able to go out there and make plays with maybe guys not being as open as he would like for them to be. Maybe he's going to have to make some throws that are a little bit tougher, throwing guys open because they're not as open as the starting group ordinarily would be. And hopefully, even though the top 3 running backs are out of this game, hopefully we're able to run the ball a little bit better and more consistently, so that eases off of the pressure that Tyler Shuck is going to face in this game. It's not ideal at all to have as many guys out as we're going to have this week, but it's the National Football League. Next man up. What these guys have waited for their opportunity, and the opportunity is now for them to go out there and see what they can do with it.
John, how you feeling about these 2 absences? One at wide receiver, one at running back.
You just can't win for losing sometimes, I guess. I hated that because I really liked the chemistry that Tyler Shuck and Devaughn Vele has put together. And look, I've been a Devin Neal supporter since day one, right? Like, I love that guy. I thought he had a lot of promise. He just didn't get his opportunity till late, and that's okay because he's got exposure now. I mean, it's going to be really interesting. We talked about it last segment of players to come back. I'm wondering what Kendre Miller's role is going to be. If you get Devin Neal, could he be on the move? Anyways, I'm jumping way ahead. At any rate, I'm just saying with Vele out, obviously Mason Tipton, Dante Pettis, those are the other options outside of Kevin Austin Jr., Chris Olave. So it's really going to be I would say a challenge. So it's a good chance for Mason Tipton to show some things. Dante Pettis, he's a guy who's kind of been on the practice squad, used here and there. They use him in the return game as well. But running back wise, I think there's something to Audric Estime and Evan Hull. I mean, these are 2 guys that, you played on teams like this late. This is usually guys that you probably will see as a reserve future contract deal at the end of the year. I would say those 2 are probably good ones. I know they picked up Naheem Hines and such. So, but it's gonna go on Estime and Hull. Those 2 have been kind of, they've been doing a running back by committee type of thing. Taysom Hill maybe get some carries in there in the process, but not having Devin Neal stinks, especially being that he hurt his hamstring on a touchdown play. Mm-hmm. I was really feeling good about that and such. And, with Neal playing the way he did, and then with Shuck playing the way, I'd say this draft class has been I won't say maybe a slam dunk, like a Michael Jordan slam dunk, but a nice little slam dunk for this Saints team getting a draft like this year. And so it's refreshing, but they're going to have to get by with what they got. A lot of it, like Lance said, is going to depend on, can they get the run game going? Can they take some of this pressure off of Tyler Shuck? Because, with the Jets firing Steve Wilks, Aaron Glenn's going to probably be doing a lot of the calls. They're the team that doesn't have any interceptions. So you know how that's going to probably roll around and such on this one. So it's a recipe for success or disaster, depending on how you want to look at it.
Yeah. No, you mentioned how this draft class is maybe not a Michael Jordan slam dunk. I'll take the analogy a little further. It's a middle school dunk, right? Because the fact that and follow me. The fact that you're dunking at all, impressive.
Right.
We're happy about it.
I get that.
You're young, and we expect that as time goes on, you're going to have more impressive dunks. Right now, it might be a rim grazer. Right now, you're just happy to see a dunk from a rookie draft class. It's not often that it has immediate dividends in the way that it has right now. Now, maybe in 2-3 years, we seeing slam dunk contest dunk. So I think that the dunk analogy is a little good, John. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to try to take it a little further with
East Bay.
Come on now.
Between the legs with it.
That's right.
Who knows? Franchise quarterback. Devin Neal was looking like he could have been a key part of a running back rotation. Need I really run them down? got a left tackle on the side. You have Jonas Sanker, Quincy Riley in this draft. I want to see what Broughton's able to be. Who would have thought, as we sit here in mid-December, that Danny Stutzman may arguably be the afterthought of this draft class so far this year?
Crazy.
Man, you think about the drafts, the killer drafts, I'd say probably 06 was the Michael Jordan, like half court, that not half court, but from the paint, that one. And then 2017 was like a Shaq, a mean, nasty dunk that brought the goal down when he was playing with the Magic. If anybody remembers those days. So
you aged me out, John. Thanks for making me feel like the young guy in the room. Let's move forward.
Well, you are.
I am, but I forgot for a minute. Okay?
Yeah,
I thought
people like
aged me
Shaq
up.
dunk. What?
Wait, Shaq played
Magic? He played with the Orlando Magic. What you talking about?
Played basketball.
I
thought he was with the General. What are you talking about?
He was a DJ.
All right, no, okay, that's funny. But when you look at Devin, Neal, and Vele, these are rough injuries. More so Neal, because he was getting an opportunity that I was always interested to see how Kendre Miller would have taken advantage of, to be the guy. No Alvin. I don't think we're going to see Alvin for the rest of the year either. You had Devin, Neal as the lead dog for multiple games, and it sucks because I think he could have really made the Kendre Miller conversation one to have in the offseason. I don't think you're getting ahead of yourself, John. I think talking about what Devin, Neal was showing on the field versus the fact that Kendre Miller couldn't stay on the field, that comparison was one to have, and it was an interesting one-to-one guy who's young, has potential, and available. That available is kind of, got knocked at the end. As far as Vele goes, I want to see, I don't know if anybody brought up Kevin Austin Jr. when talking about Vele. It seemed like that was the first guy to come up to Shuck when Vele went out. So I'll be interested to see if he gets more run. He had 1 target in 0 catches coming into last week. He had 5 targets in last game, and they all happened once Devaughn Vele hit the shelf. So I'll be interested to see if you see more of that. Shuck has done a lot of just using who's at his disposal. It's not Vele's gone, so all I'm going to do is throw to Chris Olave. And I really appreciate that because, we've seen a former Saints great quarterback who I hate to compare the young guy to, so I won't say his name, but I've seen him throw, I think, 4 or 5 touchdowns to UDFAs. Right? Like, we've seen you have to go out there and work, and we've seen other quarterbacks around the league when they lose a top guy for them. And in that game, Devaughn Vele was Shuck's top guy, even if we want to say Olave is higher on the pecking order. That day, it was Vele. We didn't see any panic. We didn't see any, oh man, I just have to spam the only other receiver that we felt like was a force coming into the season. He said, I'm gonna throw to Kevin Austin. I'm gonna throw to Estime on the check down. I really appreciated that. So from a wide receiver standpoint, Lance, put yourself in the shoes of these guys who are now coming up on the depth chart. Okay, no Devaughn Vele, it's Chris Olave, and it's me. I have to make a statement. What's the mindset if I didn't just say it with the whole statement?
Well, before I answer your question, I think just in overall vantage point of offensive football in the NFL, there are very few receivers that you could say, you know what, I'm gonna throw this ball to this guy no matter what, right? The offenses that usually work the best are the ones who throw the ball to the guy who's open. And it doesn't matter what name is on the back of that jersey, right? It's okay, he's open. That's where my read takes me. I'm throwing the ball to that guy. That was a big part of our Saints offenses back in the day being so good. Drew Brees didn't care who the guy was that was open. I'm going to throw it to that guy. And that guy happened to be a different guy almost every other play, right? Like, it wasn't like he was forcing the ball to Colston. Colston got the lion's share, but we all knew that we had to be ready, which leads me into answering your question. You got to be ready because you don't know if this opportunity is ever going to present itself again. So doing whatever it takes to seize that opportunity, showing up, making sure that you're open when you're supposed to be open, making sure you're doing what you're supposed to do on every single play, because it could be your play on that play. Like, that's the mentality. Okay, this is going to be my play on this play. It might not even be called for me, but I could still be the one that gets the ball. Stuff could break down. I could be the guy that's downfield. I can catch a 90-yard touchdown pass when nobody had any expectations for me. So treating every play like it's the most important play so that they seize the opportunity now that it's here.
Yeah, and I'll say this, two names that we brought up briefly, one I don't think we mentioned at all, but I wouldn't be shocked to see more of Taysom in the run game. And I think John brought that up. And Lance and I have had our opinions about it, but you know what? Drastic times call for dire times, call for dire measures. So I'll be interested to see if you see more of that. You may see him lined up at quarterback, you may see him lined up at running back, may see him lined up at fullback. But with consistent injuries, you probably do see Kellen dive back into the Taysom bag in the running game. And one guy we didn't speak about a lot because we focus on out wide, Juwan Johnson.
I was about to say, you're going to go Juwan.
Yeah. Juwan Johnson. I think that he's going to have to be somebody who steps up. He's already been stepping up. They've been talking about the chemistry between Shuck and Juwan all week. It feels like both of those guys are really starting to hit a stride, and he's been timely. He's been showing up when you need him. And guess what, Juwan? We need you, right? Like, we need you now. So, but we'll see. In 2026, Juwan may have a running mate, and that running mate may be playing on Saturday. Let's get into some college football playoff players to watch as we continue with the Saints Squad Show. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Whether you're still watching the Thursday night football game, because you may be thinking, Darian, it already started. Yes, listener, viewer, I know that. But with FanDuel, it doesn't matter. You have the live bet, so it doesn't matter if it's the second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. If I just reminded you the game was on, you still have some money you can make. Or maybe you're watching the Thunder versus the Clippers, hoping to make some money on that. You know, who knows? I know everybody has their own investments. Everybody has their own investments. But when it comes to FanDuel, you can make money from the start to the end. If you're willing and desiring to put some money on the Saints game, they're currently 5.5-point favorites. Now, Chris Olave has the best odds from the Saints to score 2 touchdowns, but he's not alone. Audric Estime also has really good odds to be a double dipper in the end zone. So things to interest you, things you could look for, whether live or if you're being proactive. Just make sure you're going to FanDuel.com. That is FanDuel.com to make every moment more. As we continue rolling with the Saints Squad Show, as promised, we're talking a little college football because though the Saints may be on their way to playing themselves out of a top 10 draft pick, they are not going to play themselves out of a high potential player. Now, we got college football playoffs this week, right? Everybody knows Ruben Bain's playing, right? Playoffs. I don't know what that smells like, and neither does Carolina Panther fans, but they like to act like they're superior as a fan. That's neither here nor there. When it comes to the college football playoffs, everybody thinks about Ruben Bain. Everybody talks about the monster from Miami. So we're going to obviously look at him as a prospect to study over the weekend. They're playing Texas A&M. The offensive line is giving him some extra fire, saying he's not going to be a threat. We'll see about that. But we're also going to talk about other guys. So briefly talk about Bain before we dive into some other players to watch. And I'll start with you, John.
Yeah, look, motor is what comes up, his pressure, obviously, and versatility. I think those are the biggest 3 things that he brings to the table. I think he's got some refinement in his technique, the way he approaches it, and just nasty, right? Like, I mean, this is a guy that just comes off nasty at the line of scrimmage, and I just like watching him out there. And look, I don't know. Come on, Lance, what are you doing here, buddy? Golly,
what are you doing? I missed it.
I don't even know these days. Lance is got to just get in there, and Lance is just like, what, huh? And then
I didn't say anything.
Can't say nothing around Lance.
Was it criminal?
It might have been smooth criminal. I guess
depends on your perspective.
I mean, golly, that's fine. It's fine. But anyways, like I said, pass rush abilities, power, motor, all those fun things. What you want in a guy who can be disruptive on the next level, right? And I think that's the biggest thing is he's a guy that can translate onto the next level. And the Saints could obviously use a game changer there. And I like what I've seen from Chase Young, and you had somebody like him into the mix. And I'm not opposed to bringing Cam back. We've talked about it on this show, said it weeks ago. I think Cam Jordan and Mario Davis are still playing at a high level, and I think the Saints could use that. And they obviously, as Lance pointed out in the early segment, I don't say hometown discount, but obviously at a very price-friendly discount, assuming the Saints want to bring them back both. They're facing void years, so that's obviously going to complicate a couple of things, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities that they bring them in. But look, Bain, special player, one of the guys, one of the many that you're like, oh, I'm going to definitely tune in and see what he does, because get your popcorn ready. He's going to make some noise. I don't care what they say on the other end. He's going to be a problem.
Yeah, short arms don't stop anybody around here. Now,
Trey Hendrickson, they said the same thing. He got T-Rex arm. Look what he. I mean,
that's
come on, bro.
The short arm, the measurable thing is like man. That to me is annoying because just watch the tape. Watch the tape.
And 6 foot quarterback. Drew.
But for him, like this Texas A&M group is going to be the best team that he's played against. So this is an amazing stage for him to be able to be like, okay, you said I was, I'm not this or I'm not that. I'm gonna go ahead and do this against one of the SEC's best teams. And then what are you gonna say about me? I mean, he's vicious. He's a two-way player, right? He's not just a pass rush guy. He's great against the run as well. I mean, like, he's exactly what you want. I just don't think we're now at this point. I don't think we're going to be drafting high enough to get somebody like Bain. So I think we need to be starting to look elsewhere. And, like Darian told us to do our research. We've got some other guys.
Do the knowledge, okay? Now, when from one wide receiver to another, no, not me, but Jeremy Bernard. I think that Bernard is a player from Alabama to watch this weekend because he's a run after catch guy, and it's something I think the Saints desperately need. They need somebody who, when the ball is in their hand, they feel like he can make things happen. Bama lines this guy up at running back sometimes, so that tells you what type of skill set that he possesses. I need someone who's going to turn. It doesn't have to be an 8 to 80, but sometimes just give me a 10 to 20, 23, right? Like, can I get something like that when the ball is in your hands? I think you have some talented receivers. You don't have anyone who does that in New Orleans. So I'm looking at Bernard, 5 out of Alabama. So when you're watching the game versus Oklahoma, just make sure you're looking out. I know Ryan Williams is going to be out there, but just look at his running mate. He's pretty good too.
Yeah.
I like him. I like the player. I mean, he's an explosive athlete that seems to always make plays when the ball's in his hand. Like, that's somebody that this offense could use tremendously at this point. And he's another fast guy, which we know the Saints like at wide receiver these days. So I think he would fit right in.
Yeah, and I do think, I know we somewhat forget, but Jalen Polk comes up onto this team next year, and so does Trey Palmer. We've yet to see either of them. I'm not saying that the Saints should put all their hopes, dreams, in all of that, but if you suddenly get a guy like, him, and then you get those two guys added into it, I feel really good about this wide receiver core. And now you can't have too much talent, but at the same time, I just feel like the wide receiver position overall is a very lacking position for this team that has been that way for several years. Like, they've tried to get by with what they've got. They haven't drafted. They haven't put people in the right positions or put them in the right place to succeed. A.T. Perry was a great example of that. They tried to make him something he wasn't and such, and that wasn't his game. And so I would like to see them invest a little bit more into the wide receiver position, regardless of what they have. But I mean, I'd like a lot of things. It doesn't mean I'm going to get them.
But you bring that up, and I want to briefly say this or ask this to both of you. But when thinking about how the Saints are going to go about treating the wide receiver room, how much do you two think about who Jalen Polk was essentially a deferment, right? They knew they were going to invest in him for what he could be in 2026. How much do you think about those guys when thinking about what the Saints will do? Not what you want them to do, but as far as how you think the Saints will operate.
I think it's line you up at this point because, I mean, Tipton will come back. You got Vele. I'm sure they'll put Pettis on probably bring him back or something along that lines. And Kevin Austin Jr. So, I mean, I think the guys that are there now, and Bub Means comes back. That's a great call there, Lance, because, I mean, we've yet to see Bub Means. And with Tyler Shuck, I know him and Means had some good connections and stuff there before all the stuff happened. And so I'm never settled at the wide receiver position, but at the same time, if Tyler Shuck can be doing what he's doing, I feel like he can spread the ball out and get, a lot of success. But I wouldn't say that I bank on those two guys.
I think it's about creating competition. So you bring in as many good players as possible. That overall should bring out the best in the group. And it allows you to have depth at the position that you have not really had depth at for a long time. That, to me, is what these moves kind of signify to me. And you are not worried about said depth, especially the unknown part of that depth when it comes to offseason of 2026, whether that's draft, free agency, whatever. You're trying to add good players. So I don't think they're thinking, hey, when these guys get back from injury, we're going to be set at the position. I don't think that's their line of thinking at all. I think they're going to be thinking, how can we add as much talent as possible to this room within the means of what we're trying to do, salary cap wise, obviously. But I don't think that the group that we have currently is going to look like that next year. I think there will be multiple new names amongst those guys.
One guy in the receiving, not necessarily wide receiving core, but in the receiving conversation is Sadiq out of Oregon, the tight end. A guy that both Lance and John like a lot. There, you should have seen him in the chat just bickering. Who's going to get him? I get Sadiq. You get Sadiq. I'm like, golly, guys, it's enough for everybody. But let's.
Hey.
I paused. I said, oh, no.
I
knew what I did too. But let's
Sadiq, 6'3", 245, Big Ten tight end of the year, first team All Big Ten. He turns 21 in March, plays James Madison. I mean, he's probably gonna go off, but I'd say the player's special, but the need for the Saints to have a tight end like him is paramount. I think Devaughn should have a running mate, right? Like, I think that's something you hit on, Darian. But I look at some of the good teams that have him. Some, like your Chicago's, they have two. They have Colston Loveland, Cole Kmet. I mean, you look at Pittsburgh. You look at other teams that have the good two tight ends. I have been hardcore supporter of getting an elite tight end. I wanted Tyler Warren. Lance wanted Tyler Warren. I wanted Brock Bowers the year before. I have been heavy into the scouting of the tight ends for years because I think that is just such a neglected thing. And I don't want to sit here and say, well, it's because they haven't had anything since Jimmy Graham. But the truth is they haven't had anything like that since Jimmy Graham. I think that they've tried to get by with veterans. They've tried to get by with doing all these other things. It is a valid position to invest in because when you get the right tight end in the room, look what happens. I mean, look how, when they got Kelsey or when you got Kittle or some of these other guys, I mean, it's nuts. Buffalo is another example. Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid. You want two really good tight ends. And no disrespect to Foster. Foster's a strong blocker, but he's not that receiving threat. And I think Sadiq is the blocker that has the receiving. He has the tools to be both. And that's what they need because Juwan's not also the best blocker either. And so I'd really think that if you say, hey, if you're turning in a skill position night one, he's my guy. That's definitely where I would go.
Lance, I know you also are a fan of Sadiq.
You can never have too many weapons, and he is a legit offensive weapon. I'm not going to say this lightly, but he's a guy that could replace Devaughn. I mean, he's that type of talent, a guy that you would not necessarily have to take off a field in certain situations, right? Yeah. You need him to block a defensive end? Got it. You need him to be at the point of the running game or the run attack? Okay, got it. You need him on play action to act like he's blocking, then be able to get open down the field? No problem. Strong hands, strong after the catch. He's exactly what you want, and an additional weapon on your offense, and a guy that I would imagine, like most tight ends, will become a quarterback's best friend.
Yeah. Yeah. And in that 11, I'll say 11 to 13 range that I feel like the Saints are going to push themselves to. I should look up that on Tankathon to see how close they are, but it's not far, right? The Saints are right now at 4-10, are the 7th seed, or excuse me, the 7th, wish they were 7th seed. They are the 7th overall selection. Miami's at 6 wins with 11. So maybe that's too far to catch Miami and Kansas City at 6 wins. Who knows with the whole Mahomes situation. So you might stay right there at 10. Maybe you might stay right there at 10, maybe bubble over to 11. But it feels like a guy like Sadiq is someone who is definitely a candidate in that range if we start missing out on players that have dominated the conversation like Jordan Tyson, Arvell Reese, Ruben Bain. Jeremiah Love might be in that conversation, right? He's not going to be playing this week. But is there any other players? Yes. I know we went through 3. One other player that you were thinking.
I've got one. and he's in that Miami game on the other side of the defense. Well, not their defense, on Texas A&M's defense. Cassius Howe, a guy that maybe round 1 or top 10 round 1 is a little too high, but another impact pass rushing edge guy that can play the run and get after the quarterback. 11.5 sacks. I think he's got close to 30 on his career, which is impressive. I especially the way that college football is played these days, it's harder to get a ton of sacks. But like, I just think the need is so high. We have to get out of at least day 2 with an impact type of player as an edge rusher. This defense needs it tremendously. And I think this defense really needs like a premier number 1 pass rusher so that Chase Young could be this, the number 2 pass rusher. And I think that would make him even more effective than what he's been, since he's come back from injury this year. But really like the player, long-time player in college, 5th-year player in college, but a highly productive player. And I think, as we look at these edge guys, Ruben Bain, Arvell Reese will probably be gone by the time we draft. So just another name to kind of throw out there.
Yeah. No, I think it's the right call. Like the edge rusher position. Sorry, Darian. The edge rusher position is going to have to be addressed. I mean, I think going back, and one of the things I wanted to add on tight end real quick, just saying is they got some really good tight ends that are going to hit the market. So you got Isaiah Likely, you got Kyle Pitts, who obviously had an amazing game, David Njoku, Dallas Goedert, Kellen Moore. That could be interesting. So it's one of those, it's like, depending on how they play out in free agency, I'd be really interested to see if they even look at a tight end, because there is going to be a good pool of tight ends in free agency currently. But going back to what you said about Howell, I mean, look, you just got to have somebody that game changer. The Saints have had that for a long time, or had it for a long time, and it's just something that's just missing. Like when the game's on the line and you need somebody to play big, like it's great Chase Young being able to do that, right? But they need 2 of those guys because it's just paramount. The best laid plans, they just all go to crap. But I would love to see a Cassius Howe. I mean, Arvell Reese is obviously the number 1 guy. It's like Micah Parsons 2.0, you know what I mean? But they're not going to get him. Not with where they're at.
I'll say this. Lance said something earlier that I think is a perfect representation of how that Chase Young could be helped by another guy. When we were talking about Chris Olave, he said, yeah, you're going to get all the targets, but you're also going to get all the attention. Now, I'm not saying Chase Young is getting all the attention, but when you have a guy who is an absolute stud on the other side of Chase Young, he will get all of the attention. And ideally, that would open up some things for the secondary pass rushers. So I think that is a big need. And if you walk out of day 2, like Lance was talking about, if you walk out of day 2 without it, you better have not walked out of free agency without it. That's what I'll say. If you walk out of day 2, it better be because you addressed it already with somebody in free agency. Now, let's move forward and take a look at this game. We've looked towards the future for the last couple of minutes. What about Sunday? What happens on Sunday? Saints, Jets. We're going to take a look at that as we continue with the Saints Squad Show. As we're closing out the Saints Squad Show, it's me, John, Lance, running it through. Now, Dylan did have a bold prediction and a score prediction, so I want to make sure that we get those out. He says, and this will be to help him win his playoff game, that Audric Estime will get him 80 yards from scrimmage. Doesn't have to be all on the ground, but 80 yards from scrimmage and a touchdown as the Saints win comfortably for their easiest win of the season, clearly. 24-6 is Dylan's projection for how the score goes. That would easily be the most comfortable win we've seen the Saints have. And John, I'll start with you. What's your bold prediction and score pick?
Yeah, I'll start with the score prediction. I think the Saints are going to win. The Jets, man, they're just, I don't know what to say about them. They just can't seem to get a rebuild going right, and all that other stuff. And it's interesting because, Aaron Glenn is obviously somebody the Saints were looking at and such and had on their radar. But I'm going to take the Saints. I think it's probably more like a 24-10, 24-13 type style victory. My bold prediction is Tyler Shuck leads the team in rushing at the end of the day. Because look what Trevor Lawrence did. Trevor Lawrence went off last week against them. I mean, not just on the run department, but I think, my Super Bowl was Shuck leads him in rushing. He also has 2 touchdowns on the ground. That is as bold as I can get.
He's done both of those before.
He's going to be offense. He's going to be most of the offense Sunday. Him and Olave. 12 somewhere. Throw it.
Yeah, I think I agree with both Dylan and John. I think the Saints win. I've got the Saints 24-10. The Jets, aren't they? They're starting an undrafted free agent.
Yeah, it's
rookie.
what is his name?
Right,
Brady Cook. Yeah.
Tough sledding.
Yeah,
tough sledding. I mean, it's not. It's not going to be easy coming into the dome. The team is hot. The quarterback is hot. The fans are going to be back excited again to be in there, working on a 3-game win streak. But my bold prediction is that the Saints are going to score a non-offensive touchdown in this game. I can't tell you if it's going to be special teams or defense, but for some reason, I just think this week, and maybe it's the rookie quarterback, undrafted guy that they want to get a look at, that's going to be under tremendous pressure. It's going to be loud in there. I don't know if he's going to throw a pick 6 or if there's going to be a sack fumble that turns into a touchdown, a punt return for a touchdown, or kickoff return for a touchdown. But I do feel, I don't know why I feel that. And maybe I was just pulling the rabbit out of a hat with that one, but I think something different.
Didn't you get the bold prediction right last week?
Maybe.
No, maybe.
It might not just be a feeling. Lance might have the script, y'all. So.
Well, I can promise you I don't have the script. So
okay, well,
even a dead clock is right twice a day, right?
That's what they say. I don't know. We're gonna see. All right, you had your one time. Now it's time for number 2 here. We should have said that on Sunday's show. I can't believe we forgot.
That's why I brought it up today.
Yeah, I was looking for a way to bring it up. Thank you, John. I think that when you look at Brady Cook, he didn't look great last week, of course, undrafted guy. But I can't help but imagine that Kellen's calling his brother, right? Because if I'm not, didn't Cook came from Missouri, right? I think
sounds right. Yeah, Brady Cook was
Mizzou. I can't help but imagine.
Yeah, it's Mizzou, right?
Hey, what did you see? Right? What did you see in your time working with this kid? So that's another source. Of course, you have the tape from last week, and I'm sure you looked at all the quarterbacks you could throughout the offseason, but that's firsthand or more so secondhand once it gets relayed. But I would imagine that he's probably calling his brother for, what did you see in his game? What did you cover up in his game? What type of things did you try to stop him from doing so that we can force him to have to do it? That's just a little bit of an inside track. As far as my bold prediction, I'm going to go that Tyler Shuck doesn't throw an interception. I know the omen says that we keep talking about they haven't had an interception so it's going to happen. I think that Saints finally beat fate. Feels like forever since we've done that. But the Saints go ahead and beat fate, and they beat the Jets 27-13. I'm still pushing this that they're finally going to get over the 26-point hump. They haven't been able to do it this year, but I think that this is the week because the Jets don't really have any cornerbacks. They're banged up in that position. And yes, the Saints are banged up as far as the wide receivers go, but we've seen Shuck make it work with a lot of guys. And I think that Juwan Johnson plus Chris Olave are going to be a real formidable duo to handle on Sunday.
Yeah, I would also add to just this point is that the Saints run defense has actually gotten pretty better, I would say. And so Breece Hall is practically the Jets offense at this point. And so you're going to make Brady Cook have to beat you with his arm. I just don't see it. I think it just further supports what Lance saying, maybe a non-offensive touchdown and other things. It's just hard for the Jets right now. And I just don't know if they're going to figure it out.
Well, they also have their best receivers on injured reserve. They just cut their only real veteran receiver. So it's like receiver by committee over there. We know that they've got a really good running back, so we're probably going to play with 8 guys in the box the entire game. Let's make this rookie quarterback play under duress and beat us with his arm. Like that's going to have to be the focus of this defense. Get pressure on, stop the run first, which, I guess has been better, but I'm still watching too many plays where the defensive line is getting knocked off the ball and the running back is 4, 5, 6 yards downfield before he's being contacted. I don't want to see that from our defense this week, but I do think having an extra hat in that box is going to make matters tougher for the Jets to be able to run the football. And that's exactly how we should play this game.
Yeah.
Let's test our corners a little bit with this rookie quarterback and a receiver group that is pretty unknown as far as the totality of it. Why not?
Yeah, I agree. This should be a three linebacker game. This should be a three linebacker game for the Saints. Not seeing a lot of Quincy Riley, a lot of seeing Taylor and Kool-Aid on the edges. I mean, on the outside, not the edges, but on the outside, and 3 linebackers on the inside. I agree.
But you can still match personnel. We could still be in nickel coverage and play aggressive run in the box because you're still going to have 5 DBs. I'm talking about dropping a safety in the box. You can still have Alante out there in the slot. Let's drop a safety in the box. Go ahead and beat us. We'll play cover 1 if we have to. I just think it could be 3 linebackers if it's 12 or 21 personnel. Yeah. So 2 tight ends in the game or a running back and a fullback. Sure, we're going to match personnel. If they've got 11 personnel, which is 3 receivers, we're going to match that. But we're also going to drop a safety in the box. Go ahead and run on that 6-man box if you want to. It's just not going to be easy, Yeah, no,
100%. So I think there's some parallels between these teams, right? Obviously, preseason projections were very similar, both going in with first-year head coaches. We talked about how beating Dennis Allen was kind of a thing you wanted to see Kellen do because he was the former head coach, right? Just get one up. I don't know if it's the exact same. I don't think it's the exact same, but is beating Aaron Glenn a little something like, okay, I know a lot of people wanted Glenn in New Orleans. The coach you wanted versus the coach you got. Is there a little bit of something there for maybe not the coaches, but the fan base a little bit?
I don't think so. I don't think there's any hard feelings against AG at all. I think that's the difference. AG came in here and did a great job in New Orleans, and he went to Detroit, and he carved his own path. So, I think AG is about as good as they can get. Now, he just inherited a crappy situation, right? I think that's the biggest thing. So, the thing about DA, people were just tired of the crap. You know what I'm saying? That's just what it is. They were just fed up with the same old coach speak and blah, blah, blah. And DA's always been a better coordinator than he was a head coach. And that was proof in Oakland. And that is obviously proof and echoed what happened in New Orleans. And look, the Bears, Ben Johnson and his defense is playing, at a high level. That's not surprise. DA is a great coordinator, right? It should not be a shock to people. So no, I don't think there's anything to the Aaron Glenn thing, but I mean, it is interesting watching the coaches that they were interested in at the beginning of the year, some of the guys that were in there, even like the Cliff Kingsburys, the Mike Kafkas that were in that conversation as well. But the only one I thought of was Vrabel that I thought would have been my guy, and look what he's doing in New England, but that fits him. So
yeah, Drake May.
Yeah. Well, I think something else that doesn't really get talked about, and I mean, obviously we're, Saints people, we're not talking about the Jets too much, but AG also wore the black and gold. So it's that's another layer of potential love that the fan base or the organization could have for the guy. That would, to John's point, lead us to believe that there's not any beef or bad blood. Like he left to go to Detroit because the opportunity there was to be the defensive coordinator. So he was moving up. So it's not like he was like, I'd rather be there than here. He went to move his career along and obviously had success there because now he's a head coach. So would it be good to beat the guy? Sure. But he's just the next guy on the list. It's not about personal vendettas or beefs or anything like it would have been with DA because of how, I guess, sour the whole entire experiment went.
Yeah, let me say this. I don't think I didn't mean to compare DA and Aaron Glenn and how they departed necessarily, but I do think there is typically something to where 2 coaches who the fan base wanted end up facing off against each other. Fans want to feel like we got our guy, right? We got our guy. And that is what I feel like this head-to-head is. I don't want to make it seem like it's a personal vendetta, like, yeah, that guy. No, it's not that at all. It's nothing of the sort. I think there's a lot of love for Glenn. He did wear the black and gold. It's crazy that the Saints and Jets won him. He wore both of those jerseys as a player. That's absolutely crazy to me for him. But yeah, I do think fans kind of want to feel like, all right, Kellen, of everybody we wanted, we got the right guy. You know, so I'll throw that out there, even though I don't think it's the end all be all. But I appreciate y'all every Sunday, because we'll be back on Sundays. We might miss a Wednesday.
That's right.
We'll never miss
or two.
Yeah, or two. You know, sometimes, you know, next week
Happens.
Next week is Christmas. Might not be here Wednesday
That's
again.
why I told y'all at the beginning of the show. It's Christmas.
Might be Tuesday.
Who knows, right? Might not be at all.
You never know.
Not.
You think you know, but you don't know. You have no idea, to quote a coach.
But we will be here on Sunday to break down this game between the Saints and the Jets. Guys, I'm looking for number 3. But if you're looking for us, make sure you're following Dylan and Ross, even though they're not here. Also, Lance and John on their socials. I'll be right back if you want to go to Locked On Horned Frogs, because I'm telling you now, big story about to go live in like T-minus now. Okay, so make sure you check in everybody out, and we'll be back on Sunday. So in the meantime, in between time, until the next time, which is when? Sunday. Thank you. Somebody was listening in class.
Sunday.
It's too late. It's too late. You know what I'm saying? John was the guy who said the joke after the guy who said the joke and tried to get the bigger laugh.
That's right.
I see who you are, John, but I'll see you Sunday. So take care, guys. Peace.